So today is Winston's first day at doggy day school. And as I mentioned earlier, sometimes my neighbors do a couple noises off in the distance. But I wanted to start off Mr. W with a little bit of play because he was a little bit unsure when he first came in. And I know I had him earlier when he was a baby in the puppy kindergarten class, and he did an awesome job in the program, but it's been a little bit of time since I've seen the handsome guy. So for right now, I wanted to get him nice and warmed up by doing a bit of play. So I know, for example, I was mentioning a little bit earlier with the other baby puppy about flirt pole play and how to do it safely and how to incorporate it into like a routine with some play and engagement with you from the environment. So the benefit again of some of these play items is that it involves a lot of normal doggy practice when it comes to normal responses to chasing and grabbing and biting of items. So the nice thing for Mr. W is coming to this new space again, and not new to him, but new for a little while ago. So now he's able to take some of this lovely energy and expend it while doing some nice chasing and catching of this lovely flirt pole toy. And it's a great way for him to build confidence and resilience in this new environment by having it equal fun and things that he really enjoys. So you'll see with him, I'm having him run a little faster than the puppy did. He's much older compared to the baby golden retriever. So a lot of times, smaller breed dogs will also mature sooner than larger breed dogs. So when he hits about a year and a half or so, he's probably going to be all set with his growing and his growth spurts. Two, for the handsome guy, he's already been altered, so those sex hormones, again, won't be affecting more of his growth or change for physique. So he is good to go. So now for him, he's going to be able to do things that maybe a younger puppy may not be able to do physically or mentally. So for Mr. W, I'm just trying to build up that coming to this environment can be comfortable and not too flustering. He's been doing a really good job so far throughout the day. I know that one of your main goals was getting him more comfortable around other dogs. Remember too that whenever we're dealing with different life stages, we're going to deal with different potentials for what they may or may not enjoy or like anymore. So I always try to remind my students is what you liked when you were 5 is not the same thing you liked when you were 15, and of course not the same thing you enjoyed when you were 25, and so on. So a lot of times we hope that our dogs will continue to be social butterflies, but for some of them, as they hit maturity, the social ability spectrum will change, and that's completely normal. If though we're dealing with more sort of reactivity where he's getting overwhelmed and because of his big feelings and unable to cope, it's looking like aggression or reactivity or frustration, then those would be things that we want to dive into and work on before we include the distraction or the trigger that he's having a hard time with. So for the handsome guy, right now I'm just trying to build up some comfort and some fun in this new environment. And through some of this lovely play behavior, we can get, again, the serotonin and adrenaline, all these fun, happy feelings out and about. So that way, while he comes here and tries some new skills, nice job, cuteness, he can then start to view this novel space with the sights and sounds as being an easy but fun place to be in. So right here, as he's playing, I might go, Winston, get his attention, do a little find it, and get him to, just like I did earlier with little Miss B, is get him comfortable going and trying to relinquish the item to go find a paycheck, which could be your find its. Nice job. If he's not a huge fan, I know we brought in some of his kibble, which is great because sometimes I'll use kibble throughout the day for their training as well. So it was nice that you brought in some of his lunch portion. Obviously, there might be times, though, where kibble doesn't have the same value as, of course, training treats or other yummy snacks. So we might go again. Ready? Winston, see if I can get his attention. Nice, with a nice little find it here. This time I used some stinkier snacks, which he was more of a fan on. And I'm gonna go ahead and see if I can get him to play again. So getting to practice sort of on-off switch where he gets excited and he gets to run and chase and then go from there into letting go and taking a little breather is a great way to work a little bit with the sort of on and off situation. A lot of times as puppies hit adolescence, which is what I was mentioning with Mr. Z earlier, is that you're gonna have moments where you thought behaviors or skill sets were down pat, and now all of a sudden the pup doesn't even remember their name, let alone, whatever you were working on. So there will be times where because of adolescence and different developmental stages, you're also dealing with different capabilities or coping abilities for the environment and how that's typically tends to change as well. So right here, he's going and checking out the little snacks. Nice job, cuteness. Winston, nice check-in, sir. So if Mr. W is ever a little hesitant with like a weird sound or something novel from the environment, excuse me, I like to go right into doing some nice little find its. So that way I can help build his comfort and his confidence with the novelty that's around him. Ready? Winston. Nice job, find it. So then we might go again. You ready? Go get it. And now the toy can be alive again, and we can try playing once more. Whoosh, he's doing a good job. So again, notice how I'm keeping it low. And again, I know I've mentioned earlier, you want to make sure you have an environment where you have some nice space to work in, but also that you have traction for your pup to be able to run and grip the flooring. I know I mentioned with the little golden retriever puppy is that a lot of times they're learning how to do all these different skills, but almost on an ice skating rink. So a lot of puppies will sometimes become a little fearful of slippery surfaces because they've either slipped or fallen or hurt themselves a little bit. So remember that to help them out and figuring out what to do instead is sometimes you use a carpeted section, or if you got a little section outside to do some of this type of play, much better option to avoid potential injury too. Nice job, Winston. Nice little check-in. So I'm just using that little positive interrupter, which again is one of my favorites as well. I'll do a little find it, get him in the groove. We'll take a little break from the toy, but I wanted him to be able to get comfortable and have a little bit of play to get him a little bit more cozy in this bubble. Good job, sir. So with Mr. W, I'm just going to warm up ready with a couple little find its and then work a bit with some of that name recognition. Nice. He's again a fast gentleman, so I'm going to toss it again, maybe not talk as much, and then go again. Oh, he forgot to chew that last one. Sometimes that whole panting and chewing is a little tricky. Right there, Winston. Yes, what a good boy. So if, again, he gets a little thirsty, I do have the water off in the corner, too, for the handsome man. But you can see that, obviously, he's panting. Oh, there was a very nice sit. Because of the fact that he was exercising. So remember, your babe's way to expend heat is through panting. Dogs do not sweat the way we do. They do have sweat availability in their pads, but that's typically due to a stress signal. So they're normally really overwhelmed if they are showing wet paw prints when typically the environment is dry. So that's a beautiful little sit. I'm going to feed him for that. So I think Mr. Handsome Pants remembers his lovely crazy snack lady from previous when he went to puppy class. Ready? Find it. He's like, oh my gosh, I lost it. If at times the treats do blend with the flooring, it does take them a moment to sometimes find them with their sniffer versus their eyeballs. So there are times where maybe he doesn't always pay attention to where it was rolling when there was movement. So right here, Winston, yes. So don't worry if at times it's not the most beautiful thing you've ever done. Remember, he's remastering some old dance moves or learning some new ones, and then so would you. So again, we're going to go into a little find it, and then Winston. Yes, nice job, sir. So I want to make sure for Mr. W that if, again, this new environment, oh my goodness, chewing is optional. If this new environment is a bit overwhelming, remember that everybody's babes are going to deal with stress in different manners. So some babes, when they get overwhelmed, they shut down. Other babes will become a little bit noisy or explosive. But remember, there's no such thing as good or bad. It's more communication, and I either feel safe or unsafe. So when your babes feel uncomfortable, their only options are typically flight. So get out of that situation by moving away. But for most dogs, they're stuck on equipment, they're maybe stuck behind a fence, and there is no option for flight in that situation from the dog's perspective. So fidget, fawn, freeze, and then fight would be the next set. So a lot of times, if your babe is feeling uncomfortable, they went from safe to unsafe. And then when they're feeling unsafe, those F's come out. So whenever thinking about training or working skills or even trying to change behavior or responses to things, we want to make sure that the puppy is working well under threshold where they're still taking food, they're looking comfortable and soft. If their body language is very rigid or freezing and sort of slinky and their little tail is tucked and they're looking overwhelmed, then they're also no longer going to be learning in that situation. So you want to see, yes, nice job, sir. You want to see flowing, soft, almost I call it wet noodle. So they're like just a wet noodle dog. They're very flowy and wiggly and soft, and their tail tends to just be flowing and being sort of, again, nice and gentle with their wags. if you're seeing, like when he first came in, he was a little bit unsure. He was like, this is new for me. A lot of times too, remember it takes time for your puppies to generalize skills. So if he has mostly worked with you guys, nice job, sir, at home, then all of a sudden coming here and not being part of the family and now being dropped off with the new person, even though we had a rapport from when he was a baby in puppy kindergarten, oh, nice job, sir, he will still need moments to warm up or get in the groove of this new dynamic, new environment, and new skill set. So you'll see though at times he's offering some really nice tail wags. He's also doing some sneezing and some little snuffs. Those again mean that your puppy is really excited and really happy with what's going on. But also during play or wrestles, they will also, oh my goodness, chewing still optional. They will also do some of these, there it is, there's that little tidbit. He says, don't worry, I got it. Very impressive, sir. But you will also see that at times your puppies will sneeze and snuff and make these little snorty noises while they're also playing. So it lets you or other puppies know that they're actually just play wrestling or play fighting, not real fighting. So this is really nice for Mr. W. We're getting some really nice engagement from the environment, doing those find its or noises or distractions smell wise to coming back into my space. So I'm going to take a couple little tidbits that he prefers. He's not a huge fan of the kibble per se right now because he wants the better stuff, which is understandable in this harder environment. So again, we're going to do another little find it, and I'm going to go, Winston. Yes. So remember how I mentioned a lot of these little skills are the beginning stages, like your ABCs for recall practice, for loose leash walking, for gaining attention when there could be distractions off in the distance. So remember, we want to practice skills before we need them, not in the moment. So if we're trying to get the puppy to pay attention, plus do loose leash walking, plus hone in on different skills, while the environment is too stressful or too stimulating and your pup doesn't know how to do those skills in the first place, that's too many new things all at once. So every time he offers some of these really nice little sits or check-ins, I'm also feeding him for just great responses. So I might see with Mr. W, ready? If I can get him to also work a little bit with this loose leash walking again, like we used to do in class. So I would use my snack hand to capture, oh my goodness, he's like, I smell something, is to catch these little moments where I feed him while he's by my side. So I don't care if he's on my left or the right. I just want him to start thinking that there's value. Isn't he so cute, Hippo? My little one is here. This is Winston, and he's practicing right now. So my little one is off in the distance. She was having some snacks earlier and then kind of hanging out in her little bubble. Nice job, mister. So, but I want to make sure that also my rate of reinforcement is high enough that Mr. W finds it valuable to give these things a try. If, again, you prefer the left or the right, perfectly fine. But remember, sometimes what I'm just trying to get them to think is that being near the new person and being by the side of the body is what we're looking for, and that's what has the value. So the other option, like I was doing earlier with Miss Little Lady, Miss B, is I'd send her away with a little snack, just like I am with Mr. Handsome over here. And then as he comes back into my space and checks back in by my leg, I feed for that response as well. So sometimes you can send them away and then see if they can go and reorient back to your leg. And this can start to become recall practice and, of course, loose leash walking and a few other lovely skills as you're putting them all together slowly. Nice. So with Mr. W, back to that socialization, remember that his window or his spectrum for social time may change depending on what age group he's in, but also depending on his life experiences and genetics. So there are many facets that go into behavior, and at times we may have thought he was perfectly socialized because he was a baby in a kindergarten class. Remember that a lot of times if we don't maintain the level of experience within his comfort range, as he matures, he may not be as comfortable as he was when he was a baby. So this happens a lot of times, and again, nothing bad, nothing wrong, but a lot of times puppies will sometimes go to a puppy class and then they feel really good about it. The handler and the dog are doing great, and then all of a sudden they're like, all right, we'll see you, later or whenever. And then because of lack of experience and maintaining those skills, it's almost like you don't use it, you lose it. So there are times that because of lack of practice in a scenario that's comfortable and structured and feeling safe to the puppy, as he hits adolescence, he might then get a little nervous about new things or things he didn't really get scared of before. And now because he wasn't able to maintain, he might now think new things equal we get overwhelmed and we woo, 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 and then things become scary. And then it turns into like a little bit of a snowball effect. So right now I'm going to see if I get his attention. He's a little distracted by the environment. Winston, come. What a good boy. Nice job. What a smart man. So right there, I'm just going to jackpot him. And this is, again, he's mostly eating just his kibble now because he's feeling much more comfortable. So I gave him several little snacks, which a jackpot, I know we mentioned this in class, is one snack after another versus a handful. Because for most of the puppies, they're obviously not the greatest at counting, which I get, but one handful is very similar to one snack. They kind of eat it all at once in one session. So I'd almost recommend do several little snacks to create more value in that scalar behavior. So again, Winston, come. Yes. And so like, let's say recalls are something we're trying to build up to and build up duration, or sorry, build up value. You'd want to give several little goodies throughout that lovely recall practice to really create it where there was a big chunk of change given for that really hard thing that he's working on. So, but for Mr. Handsome, we'll take a little break from what we're working on now, and then we'll work a few other little skills, but he's really doing a very nice job for his first day. And then we'll include, of course, some distractions and other things off in the distance. Like if, let's say, novel dogs are a little tricky for him right now, we can always build up to skill sets that would help before including the distraction or novel dog off in the distance as well. Nice job, sir. So I'm going to feed him for that lovely check-in and give him a little breather from this. Good job, sir. Smart man.